everything is happening in a quickness. Packing, getting on the plane, flying for my first time of my remembrance, because this would not really be my first time on a plane. I have been on the plane when I was 5 years old to London, and now it's my second time leaving the country at 19 years old to America. I landed in New York City and did not know that there was snow at this time, and my attire was not snow ready. It was never snow preparedness. I went into a slippers. I arrived at New York JFK in a slippers, a long skirt, and a long sleeve blouse. Not the look, not the weather attire. When I got into to exit the airport, everyone was looking at me. A matter of fact, when I was walking that direction, everyone was looking at me, and I was seeing that people were in coats and stuff, but I just thought that was just an American thing. I thought that just, because on TV I saw them dressed like that too. So I was just thinking this is their thing. I'm coming from Jamaica, so I was just like, But it's when we get to dorm and do this, and woo! I was like, woo! I was like, oh my God, toes, everything. I was like, So I stayed behind the door, and I was waiting for them to come. And I was like, no one told me the weather was going to be like this. And I was like, man. So we had to stop at this store to get a jacket for me and some warm clothes and so on. My destination was for Washington, D.C., but I had to stop in New York because I was like, I'll stop in New York and spend some time with my family there, and then I'll leave to go to Washington, D.C., where I'm going to be living. However, I wanted to go to FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology. That's where I wanted to go to school because I wanted to be this fashion designer. And I had put in my applications for FIT, and I had gotten a letter back saying that I was accepted and would start in the summer of September. And so I was on the waiting list at that time. The first letter I got was on the waiting list, and then the next letter I got was that I was accepted and would start in the fall. I remember that. So I was anxious, remembering waiting to get the response. And then I got that letter. But when I had gotten that letter, I was doing other classes in the meantime to up my computer skills. I was going to this computer school doing some computer classes, because at the time when I was in school, there was no computer classes given to me at my high school at the time. I remember when I was leaving Jamaica, I think that's when they were starting to introduce computers in the high schools. But in my time, computer wasn't given as part of our curriculum. So when I came to America, I went and I told them that I wanted to do some computer classes because I have no computer skills. And so I was taking some computer classes at that time. And I was so happy to be away from the abuse, the stress, and the work, because that's all I was doing: clean, cook, wash, and go through abuse. It's just ridiculous. And now I was free because I told myself that I was never going to see my mother again. But I had promised myself that I was going to help her in every way that I can. I was never going to make her suffer, but the relationship between her and I was never going to be close because I was unable to forget the things that I've gone through with her. I could not forget it, no matter how I tried. But I loved her, and I would never stop loving her. But some things I just couldn't forget. I could have cut her off 100%, but I didn't want to do that because I still loved my mother. So by this time, I'm trying to, you know, get myself, and I promised myself that I was not going to want to burden my dad with any type of financial stress, because I wanted him to focus on paying for my tuition as what we agreed with. I told him that, and he told me that if I needed anything, he gave me his accountant's information when I get to New York, that I could contact him at any time for help. But my choice was to only contact him for when I got into school. I was very independent, always had an independent spirit, and wanted to remain that way. I only wanted help with what I couldn't help myself with. So while I was there, I got a babysitting job. I was doing babysitting job, and I went to high school, and I had taken biology, accounting. I took cosmetology, garment construction, and visual arts. Those were my majors that I did in high school at Steds. And I had grade 1 in visual arts, grade 1 in garment construction, and I had gotten a certificate in cosmetology. And so there's things that my artistic side that I've want, and I did a garment construction, and I wanted to continue that at FIT. So my family in New York was saying, hey, you could stay with us and go to FIT, and because there's really no fashion school in Washington, D.C. There's an art school in D.C., but there's no fashion school like that. So I was back and forth with my decision, because my auntie in Washington is looking forward in me coming to live with her, because that was the agreement and that was the arrangement. But the school that I wanted to go to was in New York, and now there seemed to be some conflict when it comes to my decision on where I want to be. And so I had called her and spoke to her, and I told myself, you know what, instead of doing that on the phone, I am going to go there and speak with her in person and tell her that my choice is to remain in New York. So I left from there. I took the train to New Jersey, Princeton, because I had family members there and everyone wanted to meet me. So I went to Princeton, New Jersey, and then spent some time with family members there. Left there and then took a train to Washington, D.C., where I met my auntie and her children. I was so happy. I adored them. They felt like home. They felt like love. They felt like safety. And I was in love with the whole situation. I felt like I had a home and a mother and a father in my aunt and her husband, which she's my grand aunt because she's my grandmother's cousin, which would be like my grand aunt. She's my grand aunt, and I will never forget her kindness and her love and the safety that she's given me. And my great grand aunt who died and passed away, Aunt Elena, loved them a lot. This is the side of my Stewart family, and I won't disclose some more things. That side of that family is going to be sacred as well. But yes, I'm really, really grateful for that path, that door that was open to that timeline of my life. So I ended up going back to New York, and because I received a letter from FIT that I could come and do classes for portfolio until class enrollments. So I was excited and I went back up, and during the time of all of these things preparing and so on, I ended up going back to Jamaica and then returning back. And then 9/11 happened. When 9/11 happened, things changed. A matter of fact, I had gotten a dream about it, and I was telling everyone about my dream, and I was saying something bad is going to happen here, something bad is going to happen here, and they were thinking that I'm freaking out and I'm crazy. But I like I said, from I was 13, I used to have prophetical visions, and I still used to have them. And while I had that vision, I came outside, and I think it was like around 1:30 a.m. I was looking up in the heavens trying to figure out what was the meaning of that vision. And I was like, I think I need to leave New York. I don't think it's safe here. And I looked up in the heavens and I saw something across the sky, and I was like, what was that? And I was like, was that a spaceship? What was that? What was that? And so I was running inside, and I was telling them that I think I saw like a saucer. I said a flying saucer. That was the word I used. I said, I saw a flying saucer in the sky. And they were like, no, you have a dream saying something. No, you have seen a flying saucer. So they were thinking that, oh, she's cuckoo. Something is wrong with her. And then I said to them also, something is going to happen to the singer girl, Alea, because I said I had her CD, and the CD fell, and it was a crack that looked like a lightning bolt went across the CD. And for me, I saw a vision through that, and I said, something is going to happen to this singer girl as well. I said, you see the crack on the CD? It's a lightning bolt. I said, either she's going to be struck by a lightning, or something is going to happen with electrocution. That's how I described it to them at the time. And they were like, what? And I was just like, you know what? I can't talk to any of these people. They don't understand me. They're not understanding. So anyways, I did call Mr. Zoltan and tell him that I wanted to go home to Jamaica. I didn't want to tell him that I felt something bad is going to, because I'm already being looked at as this crazy person. So I'm just like, you know what? I feel I need to go home. So I went home, and I'm telling you, 2 days later, I was cleaning up the home. My mom wasn't at home now. She was in England. And I felt safe to go home because I know I wouldn't see her. So I was helping with my siblings and my stepfather and cleaning up. And that early AM, around 7-something AM Jamaica time, it came on the news, and it showed the Twin Towers coming down. And I was like, that's it, see, and I was like, see, I was telling everybody something's gonna happen. I told them, they didn't believe me, and now look at what's happening. So now that set me back from not going to school at the time when I was supposed to go to school. All the stuff, with all that debris and all the cleanup and everything. So when I returned back to New York, I was like, I didn't feel, it was uneasy. Everything, you had an accent, you're looked at. It was just a crazy time at that time in New York. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna go to DC, and I'm just gonna get